Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and are you still running the plastic charge pipes and J-pipe in your BMW M2, M3, and M4? It's time to solve a very common failure point with new charge pipes with J-pipe from Masata. All right, y'all, so let's talk about the reasons why you want to do this here really quick. So I am really impressed with the build quality of the charge pipes and J-pipe from Masata. Now, they are a company of enthusiasts that are really looking to put forward a fantastic product. They're going to meet all of your expectations. And changing your J-pipe and charge pipes on your BMW S55 motor can be really important. Now, the existing OEM are made out of plastic, so if you're pushing your car a little bit harder than normal, maybe you take it to the track on weekends, or if you're running a tune where you're running a little bit higher boost than normal, you can end up in a situation where your pipes can actually break. So not only will you address all of that concern, but you're even building towards maybe a future build. If you're looking at meth injection or a similar setup, these pipes actually have the bung ports on the side for those setup. So even if you're not planning on going down that road right now, you already have that functionality or feature there if you do. The install itself is not hard at all. I'm going to walk you through the whole process. So let's go ahead and jump into the M3 and we're going to show you how you do this work. All right, y'all. So what we're going to need to do is we need to take some components off to be able to get the charge pipes out because they're held down or in the way by the intakes and some other pieces. So the very first things you need to do is take off these upper plastics, and there are 10 millimeter like quarter turn nuts right here at the top. So you just take a 10 millimeter socket and you just turn them a quarter and they'll come loose. So those will all be loose. Now also on the corners over here, you will have those little push pin rivets right here that you pull up, and then these plastics will come off and you can just take them off and set them aside. And that will give you access to the 16 millimeter bolts that hold down the carbon fiber strut. So you're going to have the 16 millimeters here at the top, you've got 2 here at the bottom, and you'll have more here at the top. So go ahead and take all of those out. So take the plastics off, take the strut off. You also have a 10 millimeter nut right here that this reservoir hangs off of your strut bar. So make sure to take that off as well. Don't drop it, it's a drag, I've done it. Now, the one other thing to keep in mind while we're here is the front bolts are shorter. So when you put these back in, make sure that you put the shorter ones in front, but we'll deal with that once we get there. All right, so the strut bar is off, as you can see. Now, one quick side note, if you have maybe an earlier model of the F80s, the bolts holding down the strut bar may actually be a 14 millimeter instead of 16. So just keep that in mind, but still the shorter ones go in front. Now you can lift off your vanity cover very easily by simply popping it up. Take that and go ahead and set it aside. So I'm going to rearrange my camera because we're going to take our air box off on the far side. We've got to take that off to be able to get to the lower pipes. Now, one quick side note. Now, this car actually has upgraded charge pipes, but we're actually going to change these out. The process is exactly the same. So if you notice, they look a little bit different. That's the only reason why. So we're going to take that out, and then we're going to take our J pipes out. All pretty straightforward. I'll walk you through it. Okay, so to take your air box off on this side, you're going to want to take the sensor off. And there's a little clip that you depress with your thumb. Just kind of pull it out, pull it safely aside. Now you've also got basically a hose clamp right here that you can use a socket or use a screwdriver to loosen. While you're here, you can also loosen the hose clamps at the top of the top of the intake pipes as well. So I'm going to loosen all 4 of these clamps. I'm going to loosen the clamp here. Now once I have that done, I'll show you how you take your air box out, because all you're going to do is just pull the intake pipe back a little bit. It's flexible, so you're going to pull it back a little bit. And the box itself sits on grommets. So you're just going to reach underneath and just gently pop the box off. Now, quick safety note. So your intake pipe right here has a 10 millimeter bolt where this pipe is secured to the engine block right back here. And it's a little hard to see, but I'm just going to mention it right at the moment. Now, if you put too much pressure on this pipe, so as you pull this up, and if you pull up on really hard or put a bunch of back pressure on this, you can break the bracket off for this pipe. It's not the end of the world. I mean, it's not like suddenly your car won't run, but you can break that bracket off. So be really careful. So when you pull this up, kind of push this back, kind of rock it up and away to pull it out, and it should come out cleanly. And then we can get to the bottom of the charge pipes. Okay, so freehanding the camera here really quickly. As you can tell, the intake is out. Now, the one thing we're going to do is we're going to take the pipe for the intake out as well, so we can get more easily to the bolts here for the charge pipes. So as you can see, well lit right here, here's that 10mm bolt. So make sure to take that out. Then this intake pipe will just carefully, if you rock it, it'll come right out. Now, a couple of other things to point out here really quickly. So since these are already aftermarket pipes, the bolts down here at the bottom are actually a little bit different. So if you can see right here, in this case, these are actually Allen bolts, but normally they are reverse Torx. And if I remember correctly, they are E12s, but I'll confirm that. But normally what you have is you have E12 bolts right here. You've got another one back in the back, which I'll show here just in a second, but those are different. So go ahead and take your intake pipe out, and then the airbox pipe out, and then we'll take the intake pipes out next. Okay, so once you pull out those bolts down at the bottom, and if you look in the description, I'll have the correct reverse Torx. They're these kind of long, almost carriage style bolts. You just back them out with your reverse Torx and then just gently pull them out. Make sure not to drop them. Now, a couple of things here really quickly. Now, you've gone ahead and released the hose clamps here at the top of the intakes. Also here at the bottom, you've taken those bolts out as well. Now, your intakes should be loose. So all you have to do is just start to rock them, and they'll come out. They'll pull out of the collar, like that one right there. And then you do the same here for the back. And just slowly work this out. And it's kind of Tetris to get it out. Yes, and this collar's fighting me a little bit. So it's actually stuck down. So this is a great example, because we're gonna have to do this on the J-pipe here in a second. So if you have one of these rubber boots that's really stuck down to the pipe, which absolutely can happen, one of the best tools you can get is you get a 90-degree pick, a little pick tool, and you slide it in between the pipe and the rubber, and you work it around to kind of break that seal, and it'll come off at that point, okay? So go ahead and take these out. Now, the one other thing you're gonna do is you'll see that the openings for your turbos down here are now completely open, including the fresh air intake as well, because we pulled the pipe off for the intake. So go ahead and take a clean microfiber rag, stuff them into the top of all of those, clean, let me stress clean, and stuff them into the top of those so you don't have anything fall into your turbos or your intakes, okay? All right, so go ahead and take the rest of the pipes off. We're gonna move around and look at what it takes to get to your J-pipe next. All right, so here we are. So now we're looking at the other side of the charge cooler. So we've got the J-pipe down on the side, which is a little bit hard to see. So some of this, I'm gonna kind of have to show you and describe it to you because the space is so tight. But your charge cooler is sitting on grommets, very much like your airbox over on the other side. It's sitting on grommets. So that's the only thing holding this in place. It's not bolted down or secured down in any way other than sitting on rubber grommets. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen the hose clamp on this side. And this has that same rubber boot on it. So I highly recommend you take a 90-degree pick and walk that pick around that rubber gasket to help break that free a little bit. Because what we're going to do is here on the front of your charge cooler, all of your intakes for all of your coolant. And we're going to make this as simple as possible so we don't have to drain the coolant or have to worry about doing any of that. We want to get the charge cooler loose. So we're going to free the J-pipe on this side. And then what you're going to do is you're going to just slowly, you're going to grab your charge cooler, whether it's stock or aftermarket, and slowly kind of pull on a corner, pull on a corner, pull on a corner to rock it up and off the grommet feet, okay? We're not moving this, we're not pulling it off to the side or pushing it anywhere because we don't want to bend any of these hoses. What we want to do is lift this so it comes off away from the grommets, and then we can kind of set it off just a little bit and we have enough room to get down to the J-pipe. And I'll show you, because the OEM connection to the J-pipe down low is this really interesting single-use clamp that we're going to kind of pick free and pull out. But we've got to be able to get to it first. So loosen up the hose clamp here at the top of your J-pipe. Go ahead and undo your sensor here. This is a little clip that you lift and then you pull the plug off and then slowly rock this out, rock it up and away from its grommet feet. All right, also, as you can see, the charge cooler is up and out of the way, and like I said, you just pick it up and rock it off those posts and gently set it off to the side. There's a little clip right here for your return pipe that you can undo to give yourself a little bit more flexibility. Don't yard on this too hard. You don't want to break any of these connections, okay? But just gently set it off to the side. Now, the J-pipe, I've moved my light so you can see a little bit better here. So there's a couple of things we're going to need to do first. So you'll see right down here, as I point, there is one of those little squeeze connections. There's a hose that connects to it's a vacuum hose that connects to your J pipe. You squeeze on the collar and pull, and then that will come off. Now here on the other side, you've got a hose that also clips onto your J pipe right here. You can see it's got a little metal clip. So you just pull that clip off. Now, if we look on the other side right here, it's a little hard to see, but let me point it out with my finger. You'll see a little bit of white plastic right here. And what that is that's the end of a single use, well, essentially hose clamp, essentially. So right there, so you take a pick tool, pick the end of it out. So the end of that white plastic is sticking out. Grab it with a pair of needle nose pliers and pull, and then it'll come out. So then your J pipe is free. Then you just press it down and away from the throttle body, and it'll be out. But make sure to do that air hose first, because it's hard to do once the J pipe is loose. So get the clip on the other side, and then pull that retaining strap out, and then your J pipe will be out. Okay, so the J pipe is out. It really isn't that hard. It's really simple when it comes down to it. It's a little bit hard to see sometimes, but it is easy to do. And this is the OEM J pipe. So here's that intake pipe I was telling you about, and the little clip on the other side. And when you pull that kind of white skeleton band out to get it loose. Now, the one thing you do not want to forget, or you're going to end up with a boost leak, is in your existing OEM pipes, and in this case, the aftermarket have them as well, of course, but your existing OEM pipes have O-rings on the inside you're going to want to transfer, little rubber O-rings. So you're going to want to use a pick tool and be very gentle when you do this. But you can just reach in here and pull the O-ring out, because you're going to want to reuse these and transfer these to the new pipes. That's really important. Please do not forget to do this, or you're going to end up where they don't fit right. You're going to end up with boost leaks, and you're going to end up with all kinds of problems for something this simple, okay? So make sure to take them out. Now, the other thing you're going to want to do is when you do take them out, sometimes they can be a little stubborn coming out. Don't tear at them with a pick tool, or you'll tear the O-ring and you'll have a leak in your O-ring, all right? So don't do that. So go ahead and take your charge pipes, look on the bottom sides, you'll have O-rings. So take out both of the O-rings, transfer them to the new pipe, have your J pipe, pick out the internal O-ring, and this is that bottom connection that connects to the throttle body, and transfer it to the new one. And then we're gonna walk and put the new one in. All right, so go ahead and transfer your O-rings in both of the new charge pipes and the new J pipe, get that all done. And they should fit right into grooves. It's very obvious where they go. Now, the one other thing I want to point out before we go any further is, in this case, we do have meth bungs or meth injector ports on both charge pipes and the new J pipe. So if you're not doing meth injection, you're going to want to go ahead and put the plugs in. Now, the one thing I do recommend is a little bit of pipe tape. And I've already put that on just to make sure that these don't leak, because that would be such a hassle to do all this work and everything's set up right, but you've got a meth bung that's leaking a little bit. So I put a little bit of pipe tape on them and then tighten them down just snug. These are aluminum into aluminum, so don't crank on them really hard, or because you could strip them out. And if you did, then they're going to leak and the pipe is essentially ruined. So don't do that. So make sure to put these in both the J pipes and the charge pipes before you go to reinstall. So let's do the J pipe first. So let me grab the new one. I'm going to rearrange my camera a little bit, and we're going to fit it into place. But it's going to be really simple. What we're going to do is, you've got the bottom of your intake right there where you just took the old one off. You're just going to fit the new one back on. And then there's a C clip, kind of a horse collar clip, that's going to go around to hold it in place. So really simple. Okay, so let's catch up here really quickly. So you want to put the rubber boot on as well. And there's enough space that you could always put the rubber boot on before and secure it down, or you can put it on after you put the J pipe on. It really doesn't matter. It's either way. So you slide the J pipe up, and with the gasket in place, that gasket can be a little sticky. So if you have to, you can take just like a trace of oil or a little bit of grease and put it around the O-ring, because when you take that J pipe and you slide it up into place, you can tell when it goes all the way in. It doesn't quite click, but it really makes kind of a thunk sound when it goes in. Now, as you can kind of see in the shadows, there's a horseshoe collar right here. You just slide that C horseshoe collar over the top, and the J pipe is secure in place. Make sure to reconnect the air hose right here, and you press it on until it clicks. So this is all back in its place that it needs to be. So now all you have to do is just take your charge cooler and just rock it back into place. Now what you're going to want to do before you secure the charge cooler into the rubber boot is make sure that you put the big hose clamp around this, because you're going to slide it up, right? I don't have it in place right now, so you're just going to have to put it around the rubber boot. So once you get this settled into the rubber boot, you can slide the hose clamp up. I would have the little worm drive on the hose clamp right here facing this direction, so you can get either a screwdriver or a wrench on it and tighten it down. Don't forget to plug your sensor back in, and if the cable's fallen down, which it probably has, is before you swing your charge cooler over, make sure to get that cable and pull it back up so you can plug it back in, okay? But go ahead and get your charge cooler all secured again and pressed. Once it's in the boot, you press it down onto its feet, which is actually usually presses it down into the boot a little bit more, and then you can tighten down that worm drive on the hose clamp. Then we'll move back over and we'll do the charge pipes. We'll put it all back together and you'll be done. Okay, so first thing I've done is I've actually put the rubber boot on here on the back intake for the charge cooler. I've also taken both of the hose clamps that are loose and just slid them over the top so I can get to them in just a second. If you've got a rag in the top of your turbo, go ahead and take that out. And then just slide and work this back in. Just play Tetris, you know, to get it to fit back into place, and you'll just wiggle it around and wiggle it around until it turns around and gets in the right location. And it'll just sit back down right on the top of your turbo. So once you get it, and it's on the neck of the turbo right now, and once it's there, you can take it and start to work it into the boot itself, like that. And so just work it all into place. So once it's seated on top of the turbo there, you can seat it into the boot. Then make sure to put your bolt back down here, that necked bolt, the OEM bolt back down here in where it attaches to the turbo. So, and then just do the same for the front. So go ahead and do both of these next, tighten everything down, and then we're just going to put it all back together. Okay, so as you can see, the charge pipes are in, so make sure to snug down those bolts at the bottom of your charge pipes. They don't have to be super tight, and again, those usually are aluminum bolts going into steel, so don't crank them down too hard. Just snug is just fine. And then make sure all of your hose clamps at the top at your rubber gaskets are tight. You don't want any boost leaks there, and again, double check your meth bungs to make sure that those are tight as well. So the intake is back in, so I did the back charge pipe, put the intake back in, and then I put in the front one. I put in that 10mm bolt that holds this intake pipe in place, and then you just walk your air box back in. So I wanted to show this on kind of what you do. So when you put the air box back in, you want the neck, because this is fitting into some ducting that comes from the front of the car. So when you put this in, you want this to kind of neck down onto that ducting. And here's those rubber grommets that I was telling you about. Now, this is actually a great example. As you can see, this still has the grommet on it. So you can actually take this grommet off and put it back into the bracket. So the foot on this will actually go back in properly. So and this is super common. This happens all the time. So go ahead and take this rubber grommet off. But when you fit this down in, you want to fit it down onto that duct and then down into place and where the feet go into those grommets. And then at that point, you'll also have it inside of your intake pipe as well. Make sure to put your hose clamp back on, tighten it down, and you're pretty much good to go. And then all you're gonna have to do is put your vanity cover back on, we'll put the carbon strut on, and we're all done. Okay, so the airbox is back in, so you just fit it back down onto its grommets. Make sure to plug the MAF cable back in. You tighten down your hose clamp here for your intake. Make sure your 10mm is just snug back there so everything is intact. You don't want to introduce any leaks as you do this work, okay? So at this point, you can put your vanity cover back on, and it just goes onto grommets and just fits down onto grommets. So you get your vanity cover back on, and then you put your carbon fiber strut brace back on. You fit it in through the far side, you lay it down on this side. Make sure that you're very careful around your positive battery post. You can see I've covered it with a rubber glove just in case. And then you put all of your bolts back in. Now in this case, they're 14s, so you put your 14s back in. I'll have the correct torque value for those in just a moment, but you put all those back in, the short ones go in front, and you put that short 10mm bolt back into the reservoir where it attaches to your carbon strut brace. And at that point, you're done. All right, y'all, so really quickly, the install's done. Looks really, really good. Let's take a close look at the pipes. So I love the fit and finish here. The surface of these pipes is really, really good. And as I mentioned earlier, you've got the bung pipes as well that are available. But all in all, great quality. I love the way these look, and these are going to perform really, really well in this car. All right, y'all, so go ahead and clean up, put your tools away. The job's all done. And, I am really impressed with the quality of these pipes from Masata. I highly recommend this. And, anecdotally, talking to a lot of owners of BMWs with S55 motors, it feels like maybe even the car is a little bit sharper, a little bit more responsive with the metal pipes in instead of the plastic. Maybe psychosomatic, but it really can make a difference. And you have the insurance that you don't have a plastic pipe break. Everything you need will be listed in the description below with product links and all the rest. I encourage you to check that out. Thank you so much for watching, and please click subscribe and the little alarm bell. It makes a huge difference to my channel, and I'll see you on my next video.